Hello everybody, this is Snarist, and welcome back to the continuation of my Ultra Age Hard Difficulty Guide. This is part 4, Biolab Dungeon. And this is the introduction to what the dungeons are. You go into random rooms, sometimes they'll drop automatons, sometimes they'll drop dropper wells or other organic enemies, and you have to fight them in order to move on to the others. Now these drill enemies are extremely dangerous. Just keep the hell away from them all you can. Like, you can hit them enough times and stun them and everything, and that's fine. But, yeah. Don't let them get the best of you. They will charge on top of you. And they've got attacks where they keep stabbing you with their drills, and it gets rather annoying. By the way, in this dungeon area here, the time you see right now is all of the time I spent down in this dungeon, as well as preparing for the boss in the next part. And there is going to be 1 or 2 dungeons where I do end up dying in it, and I'll show you my footage. But that's not really a problem, because I want to be honest with you guys and show you that yes, I do sometimes make mistakes, and I will lose half my crystals, but these dungeons are prime ways to get your your crystals back. Because all you have to do when it comes to, like, you lose your half your crystals, sure, but if you can still kill enough enemies and do enough damage in your second run through, you can not only make back for half of the crystals you lost, so that even if you do die, sure, whatever, you're back to square one, but you have the potential to make even more of your crystals back. Now, this greatly conflicted me right now. If you don't know why, it's because I got 1,000 crystals, and since I did the 300 crystal upgrade to my item pool for getting more value for my crystals, as well as pulling in items closer to me, that is now upgradable, and I can get it to level 3. And when I get to level 3, that's when you start to see some real changes to the amount of crystals you pick up. And I heavily considered running back to the elevator, going back up, going to the shop, and buying that upgrade so that I didn't waste anything. But that would also mean I have to start the dungeon again. I didn't go very far for it, so I would recommend that you do that. As soon as you get 1,000 crystals, get out of this dungeon, even if you finished it or not. Don't worry about it so much. And just run back to the shop area, or at least the terminal, and get that upgrade. But if you want to power through it like I am, then yeah, I do almost die trying to do this. It was very foolish of me, but I'm proving that you can do it. So eventually there's going to be some crystal modules we pick up that are going to be locked because we don't have the correct power gear upgrades for Helvis, I think it is, or maybe it's for our gear. We don't have the ones that unlock more tier sockets, so we can't upgrade things like our critical damage, and there's something else I'm thinking of but I completely forgot. But it's not really that much, because the final module is basically a master module where you can upgrade all of your stats by a little amount. But that's for like the end of the game stuff. So the dungeons get particularly annoying as well because you have to fight more enemies of this kind. Now I should be using the parry more often with the claymore, but because I'm so used to getting it fully upgraded, I don't really trust it to begin with. I do as a weapon to tear through robots, but I don't really trust it as far as parrying goes, even though I should do it. So I'm playing very foolish here. Don't make that same mistake. Trust in the parry and it'll be alright. And I should be trying to get out of this corner because you can get boxed into areas and you have no idea what's going on. Because, yeah, I apologise going forward because there's going to be several instances where I'm jammed up against a corner or a wall or some stairs, and you're not going to know what the hell's going on. You can't really see what's going on. It's one of those things where you have to feel what's going on. You've been in that situation before, or a couple times. You know what it's like. You know what you have to do. You know your dodge is reliable, and you know you can make it work. So you just have to do what you do. It's just hard to explain that to someone who hasn't played the game yet. Now, there's an elevator hidden in here where it takes you down to the next area, and down in this next area is the second part of the dungeon. If you die at any point, you have to go through both floors, and these dungeons are random. They change over time. Every time you go in and out of them, every time you die, they will change. And I suppose I should explain now. The dungeon that I'm talking about, where it becomes particularly annoying when it comes to dying and having to do it all over again, is the very last dungeon of the game. See, before the final boss, which is Deucalion, you're going to have to fight one boss called Atlas, and he's basically got a lot of the Drapoel's abilities and attacks, but he's got some of his own as well. I think overall he might be the hardest boss in the game, or at least the second hardest, behind, like, say, the Snake Queen. Deucalion himself could be a tough boss fight, but if you understand how he moves and you take advantage of the Claymore's parry, you're basically untouchable. So, what I mean by this is, before you fight Atlas, you have to go to a... By the way, I used Critical Rage right at the perfect moment because he would have killed me otherwise, and he almost killed me then. Look at my health. See, I should not be alive. And so I should have been saving this Lightning Blade attack for the last encounter before you find the keycard that you need, because it'll give you a tutorial on the Lightning Blade attack, and that's what you need it for. But I'm not really going to be using that. So what I was saying before is, the final area of the game before you fight Deucalion has you going through 3 dungeons, through 3 warp gates. The first one takes you through a pretty tough dungeon, and then at the end of it you have to fight the boss in the next part, the next video I'm going to show you guys. But your abilities are upgraded, so it doesn't really matter. But the fact that you can die in that boss fight and do the entire dungeon again, it's kind of shit, but I understand it. It's far from the hardest thing as well. And it's the same thing with the second dungeon, where you'll have to fight the next area's boss at the end of a dungeon. But in the third dungeon, it's the same thing, but then you have to fight Atlas at the end of it. And Atlas is definitely one of the more fun bosses in the game. He is quite fun, but the fact that you have to do a massive run back is kind of irritating. Now luckily I managed to beat Atlas on my first try in this walkthrough, so I mean I do it narrowly, but you'll see it. So this would have been the area where I'm supposed to use the electrocution effect from using the Break Blade attack on the Lightning Blade, where I create an area of effect that sends down lightning strikes and takes out the enemies. But I don't really get a chance to use it. But this blue shielding here is what you need the Lightning Blade for. And in future, when you do pick up the Charged Claymore, you are going to find other different kinds of blades as well, and so you can pause the game and you can change your loadout. So right now I've got the Katana in the top there, the Steel Blade in the left, the Claymore on the right, and the Lightning Blade at the bottom. When it comes down to it, and I find other blades I'm going to need, like the Charged Claymore, I'm going to swap out my Steel Blade for that. And I'm going to keep everything else, because Lightning Blade still has its uses. The Katana is definitely still useful against organic enemies. In fact, it's the only weapon that actually is. And the Claymore is just absolutely the best, no question about it. It doesn't work so well against the organic enemies, obviously, but you know, because you're mostly fighting automatons, not organic enemies, you know, the Claymore's absolutely worth investing in. And I think I go ahead and I think I might as well just clear out this dungeon, or at least see what else there is on offer. So I'm just going around and checking to make sure I haven't missed anything major. And that's the lift back up. I go in the room so that it pops up on the map so I know how to find my way back out. Because yeah, if you hit the touchpad, if you're on like a console, or if you use whatever button it is to open up your map, then you'll be able to find your way through. And you'll notice those little terminals I've been coming across with the bands around them. That's a fast travel system. But these dungeons aren't very big anyway, so I don't feel like I need the fast travel. It'd almost be just as fast just to run there. And so whenever you come across an area with the doors blocked off, you just go back to other ways you've found, and eventually you'll come to the end. There's almost no dungeon in this game where I'm going to find every area and fight every enemy, because there's just no point to. Now I want to do it obviously in the beginning of the game, because this is where enemies are at their easiest, and I'm just on the rise, and the more crystals I get early on, the easier it's going to be later on when I have tons of crystals and I get the tons of upgrades that I need. And so I just go ahead and use Critical Rage right now. I should have been saving it for the boss, but you know, this was another mistake on my part. I should have been using the Katana's special attack of, you know, instead of changing, I just keep it on and do the slash attack from above and stun them both enough times that I can start wailing away at them. But no, I wasted my Critical Rage when I should have been using it for the boss coming up. So I'm just going to do one last collection here, and then I'm going to make my way out. And then I'm going to go back out. I'm going to go to the terminal. I'm going to upgrade my item pull, so I can pull items and blades from even further away. But I can also increase the value of my crystals, and it's going to go up massively now. You're going to see the results. And then I think after that, just to be on the safe side, in case I'm worried about the amount of crystals I end up losing, I'm pretty sure that I go to the Katana in the sword attributes menu. See another instances where I almost died, and this was I really believed that I was going to die here, but I don't. And because I was worried that I was going to die before the boss, or at least in the boss, then I made sure to get a few katana upgrades, because if you're not so sure about the whole item pool thing, about upgrading it, then at the very least, instead of buying the level 3 item pool upgrade like I'm going to do, at least take your 1500 or whatever it is you've got and invest into katana upgrades. But you never need to worry about most of the upgrades. You only need to worry about the ones where it increases the break blade attack damage, and the ones that what is the one? Yeah, and there's another one where you just, it's universal for all the blades. You mainly got to focus on the ones where it increases all their attacks. It doesn't increase their attack damage by much, but enough to really make a difference. And so, yeah, when it comes to a lot of the upgrades for a lot of the swords, most of them are pretty useless. A lot of it just comes down to increased damage, increased critical chance, increased critical damage, increased break blade attack damage. Some blades have very special effects when it comes to their upgrades. Like for the katana, when you switch to it, you can create like a projectile slash that goes out at enemies. Doesn't do that much damage, but it's still fine. And yeah, just general attack increase. And so now we're going to come out of the elevator and we're going to go up, we're going to go back to the terminal, going to do our upgrades, and then we're going to make our way to the Mecha Drapoel boss fight. So it's going to be a Drapoel, but it's going to be even bigger than that one we fought in the previous video. And this one, it doesn't go on for as long, the boss fight doesn't go on for as long as it probably should have, because I was pretty onto it, but you'll start to see in its follow-up phases that it'll start doing some pretty cheeky shit, and its attacks will become a little bit harder to predict and a little bit harder to time on the dodge, but I'll guide you through it all. So I go ahead and foolishly waste one of those things, not remembering that actually, no, it wasn't really foolish, because if you speed up time and you use one of those spots, you'll lose them all if you die, but if you do use them, your energy, if your energy isn't full, your energy will start to replenish, but if your energy is full and you pick at one of those energy jars, I guess, one of those energy tubes, then if you're missing one of those time speed up ability things that you see in the bottom left there, then it'll give you one of those back. Personally, I find it to be mostly pretty useless, but yeah, you do you. So here I am upgrading the katana, just trying to look for all the upgrades that focus on increasing the attack dealt by all katana attacks. There we go, right there. So it's not going to make too much of a difference, but I just want to get rid of these crystals and just, because I'm going to upgrade the katana anyway, and I want to make sure I get rid of as many crystals as I can to avoid them getting lost if I die to the boss.